All right, create your week 3 folder with your assignment and class, just the way I've done. Yes. So once you do that, we'll start. So today we'll be talking about CSS. You know, we've been discussing HTML for a while, and I told you that very soon we're going to go into CSS, and CSS is basically used to style our HTML file and make it look better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, a CSS or CSS file or CSS in general means cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets, that's what it means. And we have three types of CSS. We have the inline CSS, we have the internal CSS, and we have the external CSS. So far in all of our classes, like in day 2 classwork, I think here we've made use of inline CSS, just like here. This is called inline CSS. This is basically what inline CSS is. So
Okay.
yeah, so basically we are going to talk about internal styling, inline CSS, and external styling. So create your index page. Here I'm going to create my file, which is going to be my index file.html. So generate a doc type and name. Your title should be CSS page or cascading style sheet, anyone, just CSS. So we are going to start with creating a div. In the last class I told you that every other thing we are always going to wrap it in a div because it helps us to organize our files when we are using CSS, especially the external type, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Try using the link. Okay. So let me go back and add somebody to the class. View, someone wants to join. Admit or okay. So we have two students here, David and Clinton. So you guys are going to be the two major students here. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Can both of you hear me? Clinton, can you hear me? Okay. All right. You're welcome. So basically, what we are talking about today is CSS, right? Clinton, you already have an idea of all of these things, so this is more like a recap class for you. But still, you have to pay attention and go with the flow. So we're going to talk about cascading style sheets, inline styling, internal CSS, external CSS. So create your folder. Clinton, I believe you have something like this already, right? Do you have something like this where you have all the classes categorized in weeks and then the days in it? This is how it is categorized. So we are in week 3 and today is the first day, so it's supposed to be day 1. I didn't even remember to get day 1. Let me have this as day 1. Okay, let me shut down WhatsApp. Great. Alright, so that will not disturb us anymore. And then I'll move this in here. I'll move this in here. Alright. So let's continue. So we have our index page, which is here. Okay. So I'm going to have my H1. Generate your index page. and put whatever code you want there. So I'm going to have I love coding, right? And I'm going to go to, everything I'm writing is inside a div. Do you get? So put it inside a div. I'm going to have a paragraph tag that contains lorem, and then article. These are basic HTML tags that we've talked about before. So I'm going to also have a lorem here. So if I go back and open this in our browser, this is what we have, right?
Yes.
Okay. So far, this is everything that we have. This is looking too small. Let's see if I can increase the font to make it bigger. Okay. You can see my screen, right? It's bigger now and bolder. Alright. So we're going to talk about start with, we've already mastered inline styling and external styling. Sorry, inline styling. So we're going to talk about external styling and internal styling. So for internal styling, it is written within the head tag. Here, this way, you have the style tag this way, and then you have the type of selector you want to use. But before I even talk about this, let me talk about how to select an attribute that you want to use, or the tag you want to make use of. There are different ways to select it. We have what we call the type selector. We have the ID selector, we have the class selector, universal selector, attribute selector, pseudo selector. Like, we have so many ways to select a file that we want to make changes to or improve on, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is this type selector. Are you guys following me?
Yes.
All right. So, like I said, we are going to work with internal styling for today so that you would have a grasp of it. So it's written within the head tag. So for type selectors, we use the tag to select it. Just like if we want to style this H1, we are going to say H1, which is the selector. Then we are going to have curly braces, this curly braces, and then probably want to increase the font. We can say font size, which is the property we want to change, font size, and then the value of the size, 20 pixels. So if you go back, or probably make it 60, you see that it's bigger. Okay, this is H1. No, let me use paragraph instead. Paragraph, H1 is already bold. So this is what it looks like. Can you see my code? Clinton, are you there? Okay. So I want to be sure everybody is following. So this is internal styling, right? So for external styling, because I want to be using all of them at the same time, and I'll explain why later. For external styling, we are going to create a file, an external file that has an extension of .css. Like I explained in the last class, I said if you want to add or create an external CSS file, it has to have extensions. What the extension does for us is tells the browser what kind of file we are serving it, right? That was when we are starting programming in general, that I said whatever file you're creating is supposed to have a .html file, because all files on the internet has a kind of extension. For pictures, you have SVGs, you have PNGs, you have JPG. So for this file now, we have .html. Yes, so in this case we are going to have CSS. All right, so we'll create a file. Let me get rid of all of these things so that it won't confuse you guys, and here as well. Delete this. Okay, so this. Okay, there's nothing even in day one. Okay. All right. So we're going to create another file known as
index.css.
Yes, .css. And I think this file is completely messed up. Let me drag this thing into day one. Open day one. Drag this thing inside. It's completely messed up. Let me go to my file. And then go to documents, work, and programming. Okay, day one. Okay, take this into, delete this file first. Delete. Alright, there's nothing in there, so I'm going to delete this folder. You guys can add it when you're doing your assignments. Move to bin. So if I go back, I have classwork. So where did I create this thing now? Alright, so let's go back. Let me delete this. Okay. So in my classwork now, I'm going to create a file called index.css. So we are back on track. So I'm going to create multiple paragraphs and add lorem to it, and create probably h2 and add hello, you're welcome. Okay, I'm going to have another name section and have lorem. Okay, so this is what we'll be working with for now, both the internal, external CSS. So we have how many files now? We have the internal, our HTML file and our CSS file. So here I'm going to give this paragraph. How many paragraphs do we have here? We have 2 paragraphs. Yes, so I'm going to give this paragraph a background color of okay, pale something, pale, okay, pale turquoise, and then I'm going to give it a padding of probably 10 pixels. Yes, so if we go back, let me reduce this, it's too big. I'm going to give it probably 19 pixels. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is what we are doing with internal CSS. This is internal CSS. So if I wanted to style this thing, I can still go inside and say I want this one to be have a color of gray or green, yellow, whatever, and then the color changes. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to our index, our external file. I'll select H2 and probably give it a width of 50%. Give it a margin of 30 pixels auto. Remember what this does, auto does, is to center it, whatever we are doing, in the middle. Which this thing is this? H2. H2. You see that it's not working. The reason why is that you're supposed to tell this HTML file that you want whatever it is, whatever you have here to be. Yes, so you have to use a link tag. Link tag when you want to add this external file. The reason why you can't see it here is because it is an external file. So to add it to this place, you have what we call a link tag. This is an attribute called rel, short for relationship. It's a style sheet. So we are going to have index.css, and then whatever it is, you see it has come to this point. So here we're going to have a background color of beige or Bollywood. Okay, we're going to have a padding of not inline start, a padding of 10 pixels, and you see that it gives space. Yeah, and you have a border radius of 10 pixels. What border radius does is it curves the edges. Yes, it curves these edges. So if you want it to be a lot more curvy, you increase the size. It's curvier. Probably if we make it 70 or 80 pixels. Okay, you can't go, but let's try out percent, 50%. You see how it is? So I'm just giving you an example of how you can make use of border radius. So let's leave it at 20 pixels. So if we go back, this is what we call type selector. You see that so far we've been making use of H1, P, or anything. So we're making use of them, and it's affecting every page that we have. If I have another H2 now somewhere, and I have H2, and I have congratulations, your name has been updated or something like that, right? It's still going to have this same styling exactly how the other one has it, right? So in a case where I want to just select just one, I don't want all the heading tags or all the paragraph tags to have this sort of thing. What am I going to do? That is where a class selector comes in. I told you guys that we have different types of CSS selector. We have the type selector, which is represented by the exact name tag that you want. So you can have a H1, a P tag, a div, anything. So what you're basically telling this file is anywhere you see a P tag, give it this style. Anywhere you see a H1 tag, give it this. So it is more like a general way to select everything that you want. But in a case where you want to select just one of this paragraph, or one of this H2, or one of these sections, that's where class selector comes in. So how do you add a class selector? Is by using the class tag, class attributes. Let me do that again. You add the class, and I said that for you to add an attribute, it has to go within the opening tag. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have this class name. This is the first paragraph, so we're going to have first paragraph. So this is the first paragraph. So if we go back here in the class selector is represented by a full stop. So this is how you do it. You do it in this form. Let me use internal styling. After writing whatever you want to do here, I want to select this P. So I'm going to say dot first dot first paragraph, and then I add my curly braces, and whatever property I want to change goes in here. So in this case now, probably I don't want to give it this background color. I want the background color to still be the same. I would say background color, probably I want to give it a different kind of background color, and I say coral, right? And if I go back, you notice that this one is now coral. It's no longer this color that is related to teal. You get. So in this case now, we have single-handedly chosen this particular paragraph. So whatever properties we add to this first paragraph is going to only affect this one. But this p tag selects all the p's in our files, right? But most times make use of this one because it's much more direct, right? So the next thing we're going to do is, let me style this and make it a lot more fine-lined so that the colors will not be looking weird. Let me give this a darker shade. Okay, so it's like this. And this first paragraph, I'll give it a width of 50%. Give it a margin, not pixels, percent, yes. And we're going to give it 20 pixels auto. We're going to give it already has a padding, so it's now centered. But I don't want to give it this. Let me just give it 20 pixels, not auto. It's by the left, or give it 10 pixels. In fact, just get rid of it. Let's leave it like this for now, right? And give it a border radius of 10 pixels. So this is how it is, a bit curved compared to other ones. So this is it. So now I will talk about the difference between this style, this inline style, and this external style, because you'll be wondering, since this one and this one is exactly the same thing, why do we need it? If I add this link now that I have added here represents this style, this file. So let's say I want to style this paragraph, but I want to style it inside of this index.html. I'm talking about the hierarchies now. We have a p tag, right? And in this case, it has a font size of 19 pixels. And here I have a font size of 40 pixels. All the paragraphs now have font size of 40 pixels. Are you guys seeing what I'm showing you? Wait, let me go back. So S, no, okay, it has 19 pixels rather. And if I take this out, wait, let me go back and explain myself. Here, in our index.css, we have a paragraph tag that has a font size of 40 pixels, which means this thing is supposed to be bigger than this. But in this case, it's taking this size, 19 pixels. The reason why it's doing that is that the browser reads our files from top to bottom. So in this case, the first thing it's seeing is index.css, and inside of index.css it's seeing that this paragraph, we've given it a font size of 40 pixels. It first of all gives us a font size of 40 pixels, and then as it's reading down, it also notices that this same paragraph, the font size has been changed to 19. It now says, oh, okay, you no longer want to give it 40 pixels. Let's now take it down to 19 pixels. So in a case where we want this one, this style to the external style to be the last one, or the one it takes, you move it, take it out of there and place it after the style. So this internal style comes first before this one. So whatever comes, whatever property that we've written here will be the last one that it will take. So if you go back now, you realize that it has increased. If you come back, you see that this one is now the last one. So it's reading it from top to bottom. That's the only difference. The difference between these two is that it has the same way of writing it, it has the same way of selecting, it has the same way of everything. The only difference is the placement and the hierarchy. So let's judge inline styling. Inline styling is more like the father of them all, right? Whatever you write here, this one can't override it. It's called overriding. The internal styling and the external styling can't override whatever you have here. That's why it is not advised to use inline styling. Inline styling is not the most appropriate way to style your work. So if we come back to this paragraph and I have style and I have font size, since it's font size we are making use of, and I have font size of about 8 pixels. It's so small. If you go back, you see how small this is, and this one is only affecting just one paragraph because it's here that we are writing it in. So it's just going to affect just this paragraph. We didn't add any style here. Are you following? Do you have any question? Do you guys have any question or something you're not clear on?
How do we get?
Okay. So the difference between internal styling, external styling, and inline styling is that inline styling always overrides both the external styling and the inline styling, and the internal styling, I mean. This inline styling, because the browser reads our file from top to bottom, the inline style is always going to come last because it's in the body tag. This internal style and the external style are inside of the head tag. So once the browser is done reading the head tag, it will go to the body tag, and that's where the inline style is found. So you can't override whatever you've written here. You can't override it. So it is not advised to use inline style, even though few times they are used, but it's not the ideal way. You make use of mostly internal style and external style. And the reason why most people use this external style is that you can decide to have, if you're writing like a much more bigger program where you have over 4,000 lines of code that is just styles, your file will be too long to read. Do you get? So it's better to have two folders separately, where you have your HTML file and you have your CSS file. So that's it. So let me go back and talk about majorly the different types of style. Today we are going to focus on the type selector, the class selector, and the ID selector. That's what we're going to focus on today. So let me teach you how to comment. So for now we are going to say type selector. So if you want to comment, commenting is used. This is what we call commenting. This green stuff here is called commenting. This is the way to write a comment. You have your /, you have your asterisk, whatever message you want to write, and then you close it using asterisk and a /. That's how to write a comment in CSS. It's different for HTML file. In HTML file, you have your anchor tag, opening tag, you have an exclamation, then you have this line and whatever you want to write. So it completes it for you. But this is like a long journey. All you have to do is, if you want to comment something, you can say paragraph, for example, and I don't want this to show. So if I write paragraph, I'll just say command or control / here. I'll say control / and it's commented out. For you guys, it's control / or command / then have you guys tried it out? Is it working on your end?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this a way, like, ways to comment in HTML and CSS, right? So these ones that we've written so far are called type selectors. Just taking the tag name itself and using it to write whatever you want, or changing the properties. This width here is the property, then this 50% is the value. Same with these ones: margin, background color, padding, border radius, etc, etc. So this is the width, this is the margin, this is the background color, padding. These are called the properties with their values, and this here is the selector. That's the format for styling a tag or an element in HTML. So next one we're going to talk about is the class selector. Okay, so this here comment is used to explain more of your code. It's just like after writing a code and you come back years later to look at that code, you might not remember exactly what you did there. So this comment is used to just explain, okay, if I look at type selector, it gives you an idea of, okay, it's just type selector that I used here. If I go to class selector, I know that, okay, this place is talking about this. Just gives you an idea of what you wrote in your code. It's an optional thing, but most times if you're writing a very large code base, you have a large code base and you want like to explain, to be able to remember or to explain to someone that is using the file of what that particular code does, you can use a comment for that. So here I said that for you to be able to get a selector, you have to use a dot. So a dot is what represents a class selector. If you don't add a dot, you're basically selecting using type selector. So for here, we're going to add a class here, and I'm going to say heading 2. Heading 2. So if I go back, I can select that particular one with heading 2, have my curly braces, and then add anything I want to add. So in my heading 2, I have a background color of let me make use of another stuff. Let's say text decoration line through. If I go back, you see that there's a line through this one. Even though I have two H2 tags, this is a heading tag 2, this is a heading tag, and this is a H2 tag, and this is a H2 tag. Can you hear me? This is a H2 tag and this is another H2 tag, but I've been able to select just this H2 by giving it a class name. If I want this property to also affect whatever I add here to also affect here, I'll name the two of them H2 tags. Heading 2, heading 2, I'll give it the same class name, and this one will have it. Let's try it now. Class, add a class attribute and give it heading 2. If you go back, this one now has a line through. So, but let's get rid of this because we are trying to use different things. So let me try and make this code a bit neater. So for here we have article. I'm still working inside my type selector. We have a type selector article here. We have a H1, a paragraph, an article tag, a paragraph tag, a h2 tag and a section tag. So let me see article. Article is going to have a background color of cornflower blue. Let's see. Okay, it has a cornflower blue. Then I'm going to have a section. I want to give them all background color so that I'll be able to make it look a bit neater. Background color of dark magenta, and then it has this. So for this one, because of the background color is a bit dark, we can't really see what is written there. So we are going to give it a change the color to white. So this is it, it's better now. We are going to give it a padding. Padding is to give space inside, a padding of 20 pixels. So this is how it looks now. And then we're going to give it a width. I don't want it to cut across the whole screen. I'm going to give it a width of 30%. And then this is how it looks like now. Let's work on this one as well. The one that has pale blue, that's for paragraph. This one here, I'm going to give it a width of 70%. Let's go with 70%. I'm going to give it a margin of 20 pixels auto, so that it will be in the middle, just like this one. And this is how it looks now. Not auto. Reduce this to probably 10 pixels, and it's smaller. It's too small, so let's give it 30 pixels, and I'm going to get rid of this auto. So this margin now, there's something I haven't explained before. This margin gives space here on top and below. If I get rid of this margin, okay, the others have margin as well. I think the H2 also has margin. Which other one has margin? There's margin somewhere else. Margin. Okay, there's no other margin. Alright, so this one has a default margin because it's the heading tag. So H tags like this one and this one, they have default margins that come with them. So but if I want to increase the space between this one and this one, I use a margin to give space around it. So for that one, it's, which one has that color? Which one has the color? Okay, that should be first paragraph. So if I go to dot first paragraph and I give it a margin, I can give it a margin top of 20 pixels. Okay, it already has a big margin top. Let's make it 60 pixels. Can you see that it has increased? The size has increased. So if I go back and give it a margin bottom of 30 pixels, you see that the space under has also increased. So margin is this, the margin top, this is margin right, this is margin bottom, and this is margin left. So let me go back and give it margin left of 50 pixels. It has moved 50 pixels away from this edge. 50 pixels away. This is margin left. If I add margin right, you might not really see it because the space is much, except I wrap this inside the container and give it a border. That's when you'll be able to notice the changes. So this is basically how to go about it. But in a case where, let me give you margin right, just to margin right Let's buttress my point and I say 10 pixels, you won't really notice anything that happened. So instead of writing all of these things, margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right, you see that it's taking a lot of space. You can use it, you can use what we call just margin. This margin. So the first one is the top. We add margin top 60 pixels. The one that comes next is always the margin right, 10 pixels. The next one that follows it is margin bottom. So we'll have 30 pixels. And the next one would be margin left, 50 pixels. So this is the way it works. You see that nothing has changed. It goes in clockwise direction. Margin top, then margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. Margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. So this is a way to select all of them at once instead of writing it one by one like we have here. Do you get? So this is like a simpler way of writing it. Instead of having all of this, you can just write it in one line. So it goes in a clockwise direction, this way, round, from top to right, bottom and left. So the next one we're going to talk about is the ID selector. We have 15 more minutes before our class ends. We have the ID selector. Okay, this is the heading tag. Let's work on type select a bit more. Command X. I want to delete all of these things. Okay, let's increase this font size a bit more. Font size to 20 pixels. I think I already have font size here. Okay, it doesn't have font size. All right, so first paragraph, font size of 20 pixels. Okay, you see I can't override it because this inline style has overridden it. This thing can only change to 20 pixels if and only if I get rid of this one. You see that it has increased to 20 pixels. So because of the fact that it had this style before, there's nothing I can write that will override it here. That is why it is not always good to use inline style. Just very few times that you can use it when you're coding, but most times you make use of either the internal style or the external style. So coming back to this class selector, you can multiple tags can have the same class name. Like for example, in your class you can have somebody whose name is Clinton, like 2 or 3 people that bear Clinton. That's like a class name, people can share it. But something like your fingerprint or your DNA per se is unique to you. So that's like what ID does. So you can have different elements with the same class name, but you can't have different elements with the same ID name. But that one's for ID selectors when we get there. So we can give this section now, we can still give it a heading tag of 2, and you see that this H2 and this section now has the same class name. If you go back and check it, let me see where I have heading tag. Okay, I haven't given any heading tag before. I have not given it any. Okay, I just gave it a text decoration of line through. Okay, so you see here that this section now has a line through because they are sharing the same class name of line through. If I give this place now a background color of red, they both now share the red color. Do you see it? Because they have the same class name. They are sharing the same class name. So that's what class name can do. So if you have a different properties that you want to give to different tags, you can use the same class name to style them. So that's that. Let's make this a lot better. A lot better. Okay. Alright. So we have less than 10 minutes to go. So that's basically what we're going to talk about in this class. So do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Any questions before our class ends? Do you have any questions? Alright, so your assignment would be to replicate this. I'll send you this file via your email. Clinton, I lost your email and the assignments that you sent me in the last message. So please resend the last messages that you sent, your assignments and your email. I no longer have them. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so kindly resend it. So I'm going to send you this. Let me increase this so that you see the assignments. So this is the assignment. This is the assignment. So you're going to replicate this in your VS Code, right? You're just going to replicate it and show it on your browser like this. So in our next class, or probably when I'm going to check your assignment, you open your browser and you share your own screen and I'll see your assignment. So this is what you're going to replicate. Once I send you this file, you see it. So I was able to achieve this by giving, let's try it with this coding. This one is H1. I think I only have one H1. So if I go to index.css and I say H1, since it's a type selector, I'm going to make use of H1. I will say border radius of 50 pixels. I'm going to say background color of probably aqua. Okay, orange, anyone. Orange. And okay, we are going to give it a width of 50%, and we're going to give it text align of center. Text align center. So this is what we have. So this was how I was able to get this. This one is called box shadow. Okay, ends in 15 minutes. All right. So let's give it a box shadow. Box shadow of
Shadow.
yes, box shadow. Box shadow is something like this. Something like this. This red that you're seeing here was added using a box shadow. So if we give us a box shadow of 1 pixel or probably 8 pixels, for example 10 pixels and probably 18 pixels, you now give it a color that you want. Let me say black. If I go back, you see that it has given it a box shadow.
Yes.
So this thing now, if I want to increase it, it's 8 pixels by the right, under is 10 pixels, and left is, so the box shadow is just this format. This is how you write it. So this thing can be 1 pixel, it can be 2 pixels, it can be 3 pixels. The only thing is that it's going to be smaller. You see the difference now? It's going to be smaller. So the higher the px size or the font size or the pixel, the higher the pixel, the more it will show. So if you want it to be a lot bolder or bigger, or if you want it to show a lot more, you increase it. So here I'm going to have 5. You see that it's showing. So you can add box shadow using that. So if you go back to your assignment, you're going to see that this one has a box shadow and a border radius. You already know how to place it in the center by using margin, right? So this is basically it. And if you notice, this background has it looks like it has a background color. Like the container carrying all of this thing has a background color. Yes, so this one has a white background. So I want you people to figure out a way to give your own a background color that looks like it mustn't be this exact color. It can be any color. So but give it a background color, this background color. Is that clear? Figure out a way to do it. Go on YouTube, check. Since I've already given you insights on how to get others, go and check how to get this one. It's very easy, it's very simple. Just think about it. Alright, so that will be all. I'll have this class. I think I recorded it. I'll go through it and then send it to you guys in case you want to go through anything. Alright?
Yes.
Alright. Okay, so that will be all for today. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Alright, you can log out.